Real quickly before we jump into the video, I want to let you guys know something we're doing over on my Twitter. I know we just did a little giveaway of an Elgato, but this time we're actually doing something that I had some leftover goodies from the actual reveal event. So if you guys want to check that out, I'm giving away a few things from that being a poster, a t-shirt, a keychain, and a rally towel. If you guys want to check that out, link is in the description below to the tweet. All you have to do is retweet and follow to enter, and I'll be picking the winner at the end of the week. I ended up getting 2 of each, so honestly, I don't need double of everything, so I figured I'd give away some stuff to anybody that was interested. So that link is again in the description below to the tweet if you guys want to go check that out. But that said, let's jump into the regularly scheduled content. Black Ops 4 was announced last week, and we got a ton of information on the game so far. One of the big things, though, is that it breaks tradition in the sense that it's the first Call of Duty without a full-fledged campaign mode. And I know some people are very upset by this, and some people really want there to be a story to go along with it. But while we may not be seeing the continuation of the lore regarding Mason, Woods, and the rest of the gang, there actually will be a narrative in the game, just not in the capacity that we may have thought. Detailed to us at the reveal, Dan Bunting gave us a heads up that Black Ops 4 would allow us to have missions in relation to multiplayer. Think Spec Ops from the Modern Warfare series, but narratively driven and allowing players to get a hands-on feel and understanding of each of the new and returning specialists. But what he also confirmed was that there also would be the ability to explore their identities inside the Black Ops universe. But what if I told you this actually isn't the first time that we've seen this, and that you may very well be able to look forward to quite an in-depth narrative? If you ever wondered in Black Ops 3 why every single game started off with some snarky remarks from each of our specialists, or if you're ever in the vicinity of a specialist pulling off an interesting or rather good play, your specialist may say something back to them, well, it all ties into where this comes from. Because believe it or not, Black Ops 3 had a secret storyline for multiplayer hidden in plain view, and if I were a betting man, I'd say that that's exactly the case of where Black Ops 4 revisits with a narrative based around the specialist characters, because there is already a ton of lore regarding each of them. Now, to me, the easiest bet to consider is that this will follow a very similar outline for narrative, possibly even going as far as to be found in the same manner as in Black Ops 3, in which that storyline was actually found among the specialist transmissions. But instead of furthering a story, instead, it's most likely going to be how we got there, which offers so much more potential narratively. But before we go into that, perhaps we should recap a bit for those that have no idea what I'm talking about, where this came from, and that specialist backstory in Black Ops 3. So, shall we? In Black Ops 3, we're introduced to the specialist system, all while being fully immersed into a zombies experience narratively, as well as a hit-or-miss campaign that many liked and many also disliked. But hidden in plain view for the majority of the player base was a third, fully functioning narrative in a canon world. The specialists were thought of having some additions to add personal flair to them, but such things as the specialist transmissions that were unlocked as progression went along gave insight into each of the 9 specialists, and quickly after launch, enough was unlocked to see just what happens when you piece them all together. Now, without playing every single individual specialist piece of dialogue or giving an individual rundown and synopsis of each individual specialist, we find out that multiplayer takes place simultaneously and almost synonymously with Black Ops 3's campaign, because according to Seraph's backstory, in which she's only 17 when she met the late Go Min and his sister Julan, that means that Julan never died, but she does in the campaign, so it takes place between those 2 campaign missions when we see both of those. We also learn that there are subtle bonds and disdains that each of the specialists have for each other. For example, Battery and Ruin grew up together and during an op came across Spectre, who they generally just did not like and thought he was kind of a creep. That feeling also was kind of mutual, as Spectre wasn't too fond of them, but in terms of his backstory, he's not necessarily a narcissist, but he always puts his plan first, feeling that it's the better play for the overall good. We also learn that characters like Reaper, he's actually a stolen robot with a real name of EWR-115, and he's a hitman in a sense, with an underground gambling ring even focusing solely on his body count, which is an interesting little tidbit. But Reaper works with Prophet so that he can be reprogrammed so that he can end up tracking down and murdering those who took control of him. Then after he does that, he stays autonomous so that he can continue his hunts, and so on and so forth. So I can leave all the cool tidbits of specialist info for you guys down there in the description below if you guys want to check that out. It's actually a fantastic read from a couple of years ago from the Redditor Hypobromite, so definitely if you have a few spare minutes, check those out. It might give you some more insight to the game that you never even had the slightest of clues about, but it is very in-depth and sets up a lot of what we'll talk about here perfectly, and may even explain it better than I possibly can on my best days. But as for the actual storyline and backstory of multiplayer, well, that's revealed in the final pieces of the transmissions. When you unlock the final transmission number 8 for any specialist, you'll have access to 9.1, and you'll learn in this final transmission that that it explains the 9 specialists who are constantly in combat were recorded covertly by a voice-disguised spy who reports back to his boss saying that the referenced 8 specialists would be suitable candidates for his program.
Based on the requirements laid out at the start of this procurement process, I'm certain that the intelligence gathered in the dossiers in front of you will lead you to conclude that the 8 referenced individuals will be the best subjects for your program. Further, I believe that the plant you specified be placed amongst them will independently verify my findings. As instructed, the intelligence was gathered covertly, using a number of...
Are you certain they were unaware of your surveillance?
Yes, sir. At stake my reputation.
There's more at stake here than your reputation.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Very well. Leave us. We were never here. We have never spoken.
That's 8 specialists, not 9. And as we know, we don't have 8 specialists in Black Ops 3, we have 9. And I guess if you want to count Blackjack later on, that's even 10. But that one that is not included in those 8 is a spy, and that is the specialist who is talking in this final transmission. But the interesting part is that we never actually know who this is, because we end up getting intel on each of our 9 specialists. So the spy reported on themselves to make themselves seem more in line with everything here that we end up seeing through these transmissions. But the crazier spin is that if you look at it in terms of pairing with the Black Ops 3 campaign, you'll know that 5 Winslow Accord operators, 1 bloodthirsty robot, a 54i enforcer, and a CDP member would never work together on literally anything. The reasoning, though, is that they're all part of a simulation, a combat sim of the best fighters in the world, allowing them to do exactly what they love the most for the rest of eternity, that being fighting. This is directly linked in references across the board. There's tons of them, but just for quick reference, Prophet ends up saying things like that they're in the age of being able to upload human consciousness, and not via DNI, but actually transcendence in a sense, uploading a conscious mind to a computer. And we actually saw in the campaign, governments already doing that, like the CIA and Coalescence. They did secret upload tests in the campaign to validate that that is something that is plausible and something they can actually do. As well, there's several mentions of the world watching the entire multiplayer matches and other things in the multiplayer of the game that really point to something being off in a sense, where it's not real life. But what it boils down to is the uploaded consciousness into a combat sim done by this organization, this boss that this spy reports to. That combat simulation is designed so that you can perfect combat without the risk of death, because to perfect a craft, one must practice it, but if there's the very real chance of dying in a battle, you can't really practice as if your life depends on it if you're not facing the chance of death the entire time. So the sim artificially allows you to face death, but never truly die. We never find out who the spy is, we never find out who the organization is, and we never find out who the highest bidder this would go to is in Black Ops 3. And it's a sort of forgotten or intentionally forgotten, but placed in plain sight of narrative that has so much potential but was never really continued. So where does that leave us for Black Ops 4? The time frame has been given to us that it takes place after Black Ops 2 and before Black Ops 3, but we never hear of a specific year, which makes this harder to break down and analyze. But if all things were to tie in accordingly, we will be seeing the prequel to the Specialist storylines, a human version of them, and not their uploaded consciousness that we saw in Black Ops 3. So we may, in the combat missions, even get to live out some of the moments referenced in the audio cues and the transmissions from Black Ops 3. And if we're lucky, we'll finally get to know who that spy was, who that organization was, and who the interested buyers were. Perhaps wrapping up the entire secondary narrative that has stood the test of time as being hidden in plain view. The only obstacle that I see the narrative may face is the new specialist, because we have a few specialists returning, yes, but we also have new ones in place of some of those faces that we had in Black Ops 3. For example, we have Crash in Black Ops 4, a medic that we didn't have in Black Ops 3, but Reaper, the bloodthirsty robot out for vengeance, is not in Black Ops 4. So there's some trade-off here that may again tie in, but I think the very real and cool part about this is that we may perhaps learn more about the independent world that is Black Ops 4's multiplayer, the universe behind that, but also that could lead in turn to a chronological and canonical multiplayer narrative to Black Ops 3's backstory. Which again leads into another interesting way that this could end up panning out, that being the fact that Black Ops 3 in terms of multiplayer is actually chronologically before Black Ops 3's multiplayer backstory. So again, we may see the very much so living world that leads into Black Ops 3 in Black Ops 4, if that makes sense. So it's an interesting little spin on how things can work, but of course there is a ton of information and a ton of ways this could go, simply because Black Ops 3 already set up something that many people may never have known about. So that's something very cool that I'm very much so hoping they do investigate a little further with the narrative that each mission for each specialist may end up giving. And of course, maybe we end up seeing more transmissions whenever we go and take a look at maybe specialist cards like we saw within Black Ops 3, but it could give a very much so deeper understanding of the world around each specialist and maybe answer some questions that have been there since the beginning in Black Ops 3. So that said, we don't have a traditional campaign within Black Ops 4. We won't see again the continuation of Mason, Woods, and the entire gang there from the Black Ops trilogy, but for those that do love narrative, for those that do love some storyline and some lore behind everything, there is very much so an open world that can have a lot of possibilities approached by Black Ops 4 and what they can end up delivering for some stuff that's already been set up and what we may already have started seeing in Black Ops 3. So there's a lot of stuff to discuss here. Again, make sure you go check out that link in the description below if you guys want a full and true understanding of everything that happened, because it's absolutely fantastic. It is so much stuff that again is hidden in plain view, and I'm honestly blown away to this day by how much went into that was never really published as a hey, check this out sort of thing that we end up seeing, because campaign, you go into it knowing you're gonna get a story. Zombies is now well enough established that there is a storyline behind it, but multiplayer, you never really think about that. So it was awesome to see that added in, and I'm very excited to see how this may extend into Black Ops 4. So that said, that's where we're gonna wrap it up. I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section down below. Did you guys firstly know about this Black Ops 3 multiplayer backstory and mechanical world within the part of the game we may play every single day? Did you have any idea that existed? And secondly, do you want that sort of storyline to be revisited and to be expanded upon and maybe even set up with via a prequel in the Black Ops 4 multiplayer specialist missions and how that narrative will work out? Or do you want something entirely different? Love to get your thoughts and feedback though. I think there's so much possibility here with this. None of it is in any way, shape, or form confirmed, so there is no right or wrong answer, but I'd love to get your feedback. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you liked this information and everything on the table. If you guys did, make sure to drop a like down below. If you guys are new to the channel and are interested in Black Ops 4 in any way, shape, or form, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. We're going to be keeping you guys up to date with everything you need to know about Black Ops 4. So if any of it interests you, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. And if you guys want to follow me over on Twitter, that's the best place to get connected from outside of YouTube. Practically live on Twitter. So if you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, link is down there in the description below. And finally, if you guys want to follow me over on Instagram as well, trying to get more active over there, posting a lot of pictures from the reveal event. There's a lot of stuff going down there as well, so if you guys want to follow on that front, link is in the description below. But all that said and out of the way, thank you all so much for watching. My name is Espresso. Hopefully you guys have a fantastic day. Take care, and peace.